I don't think consumers differentiate between 85, 95 and 90. People only differentiate between 0 and 100.
At the top, there's only room for one, right?
I believe in India, 80% of celebrity usage in advertising that I see is not thought.
Creating is easy. What to create is $1 million question.
Hi, you're listening to Marketing with Vani, in which I speak to marketing gurus. Together we decode how marketing works in the real world to grow your business.
Don't we all want to create iconic brands even when we launch a new brand? But when the brand is new, when one has just started out, there's limited money, and one is using digital only for communication. Then what should one do to have all the makings of an iconic brand? In this episode, Vani and Karan Amin discuss what it takes to build an iconic brand in the early stages using digital media. Karan Amin is a path-breaking creator who's won the prestigious Cannes Gold Lion Award and is a passionate digital advocate for almost 2 decades. Listen on.
When brands are just starting out, when the monies are small, of course, every brand has a dream to want to become a strong brand. So at an early stage, a brand that is primarily existing on digital, primarily selling on digital e-marketplaces, what does a brand do to prepare itself and to put the right ingredients in place in order to become or in order to head towards becoming an iconic brand?
Just like a lot of people watch Shark Tank. And in Shark Tank, there's a person who gets a chance to make an elevator pitch. You need to know what is your elevator pitch to the consumer. This is your live Shark Tank episode happening on a day-to-day basis, and you are going to be talking to that consumer. What are you going to be telling that consumer? Therefore, you need to design and craft through your head a very concise and clear elevator pitch. That's the first thing the brand needs to have in place. Second is, what are your target persona? Who are the people that are going to buy into your brand? What is their persona? What are their pain points? What are their desires? What are they looking for on the internet? What are they searching for? What are the platforms and sites they go to? What is the description of this persona? And therefore, even the different personas that fall under that. So if you're targeting 5 different personas, then you need maybe a different messaging for those 5 different personas. Also, what are the brands have to therefore even define what are the problems being faced by this consumer that they are targeting? What are the primary problems this consumer is having? What are the secondary problems this consumer is having? And therefore, how your product is going to solve these problems for that consumer. And the most important thing is feeling. What is the consumer feeling about these problems? When they go through these problems, what do they feel? Because if you can bring out that feeling in your communication, people will identify with it a lot better and say, hey, this is for me. You have grabbed their attention because you have creatively visualized that feeling.
Very nice. So you said, first of all, have an elevator pitch.
Yes.
Then you said you must have a very sharply defined target persona. Please understand who is the person you're talking to. What is her worldview like? How does she relate with the category? What is the problem she is specifically facing? Make sure you understand the problem. How will you solve the problem? And solve the problem from the lens of how she is feeling. You must be able to solve for how this consumer is feeling. Now, 2 questions over here, Karan. Number 1, what are the components of an elevator pitch? What or should the elevator pitch necessarily have? That's number 1. And number 2 is, let me do an emotional film because I must be able to evoke a feeling, because now emotional connect has become very fashionable to talk about. So when you talk about, make sure you're able to connect with how the consumer is feeling. Do you think that sometimes this is misunderstood to be just emotion devoid of what the product is doing?
I think the very first step is that because as a brand, you have chosen digital. And when you have chosen digital, before you even get into making your content, very first you define what are the platforms you are going to use and why you are using those platforms. It's not like I will, because I'm setting up a new brand, I'll make Instagram also, I'll make Facebook also, I'll make YouTube also, I'll make Twitter also. You do everything because sab log sab kuch kar rahe hain. Like what is going to work for your brand is what is important, because where does your audience lie? And therefore, what are they doing on that platform? Now, what happens if you discover that all your users are on something like a TikTok? Then doing something like a Facebook is of no use. And therefore, again, when you discover and decide that, okay, these are going to be my lead platforms, then you need to craft your storytelling, what is going to work on those platforms. What is the consumer feeling on Instagram? Now, if you look at Instagram in general, Instagram itself also as a platform is pushing reels more than it pushing posts and stories. So if as a brand you put up a post, it will organically get less engagement organically than it would get with reels. And then if you look at reels as your brand, this thing, then what is happening on reels? What is the kind of content that is happening on reels? What is the kind of content that people are watching on reels? Nobody's watching these emotional tearjerkers on reels. They are watching fun, quirky stuff because that is grabbing your attention and it is far more shareable. Because if it is fun and engaging, there's a higher chance it will get shared, higher chance it will get watched again, higher chance the people will engage with it. But if it is something which is largely a tearjerker, then you will watch it only once. And you may have a tearjerker moment, you may share it, but you will not watch it again because consumer ko rona nahi hai. Consumer wants to stay happy.
But you're not saying that tearjerkers don't work only because reels are meant to entertain and tearjerkers don't entertain. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying tearjerkers, you can make the tearjerker, but then what are you making that tearjerker for? What is your end objective? What do you want the consumer to do at the end of watching that film? Do you want them to be sharing this film? Do you want them to be clicking on some link, buy something? How is that leading to some conversion or some brand affinity?
No, so what I'm saying is reels is equal to entertainment. But what you're saying is be sure about what platform you are picking.
Yes.
That platform has to be picked after you understood where your consumer is. Because your consumer is unlikely to be equally on all platforms. So please, first of all, understand where is your consumer most hanging out and create for that platform. Understand how that platform works. Because different things work for different platforms. The kind of content that works on an Instagram reel does not work on a LinkedIn, for example. So make sure that you understand how that platform works, create for that platform.
As a brand, you want to say a lot to the consumer. You should not say too much. You do not say too much in your ads. Just a generic live example. If I throw 3 balls at you, Vani, how many will you catch?
Maybe none.
Throw one thing at a time. Again, back to the elevator pitch from your elevator pitch. All the things about the brand or your product, but what is that one key thing which people are going to get excited by? Take that one key thing and you craft your creative storytelling around that and make it fun and engaging. So if you have 5 features, you rather make 5 10-second videos each talking about an individual feature versus having one video with all 5 features in it.
Right. But at the same time, have a clear brand proposition. This is what we talk about in the elevator pitch as well, because you can't be everything. So if you're a toothpaste, you can't say A to Z. I make 50 films about the 50 different things that the toothpaste does.
How much do you want the consumer to take out of it?
Yeah. Actually, on this, Karan, I want to talk to you about a real discussion that I had very recently at a brand workshop. Okay. Now, this brand has a huge portfolio of products. First of all, we must understand that there is a difference between what I advertise, the nature of advertising and content for a thematic ad versus the content that I create for my social media platforms. The thematic ad will be different. The film that I run on YouTube will be different from what I do, all the content that I create for social media platforms. Now, coming to the thematic communication for the YouTube film, okay? Very often I've been asked, what is a hero product? I find that a lot of founders struggle with this concept. For example, if you remember Kurkure when we worked on together, we had over 100 different SKUs. We had 8 different product verticals in terms of the different kinds of snacks we had. But we never had equal GRPs across all. In fact, out of the 8, it was mostly Masala Munch that we put most of our GRPs on, that did the heavy lifting of taking the entire range through. And then when we had a new innovation, when we came up with a new variant with which we wanted to create news, we advertised that. Similarly, let's say, look at Apple, for example. Apple only advertises its top-end. Or when you think of Mercedes will advertise its top-end Mercedes. So tell me about this. How should one understand that even if one has a portfolio of 20, 30 different products, you can't create a film for every product. And actually, largely true even for the social media content. Even social media content, if I have 40 different products, I cannot create equal content for each of the 40 different products equally.
Yes. In fact, that's a great point about making so many products. Like, I'll give a classic example. If you look at India in the e-commerce space, and if you have, like, you look at, say, for example, Nykaa, under Nykaa fashion, there is makeup also, beauty also, shampoo also. It's not like you started with fashion, but then you got greedy. You look at other brands, then they are all doing similar stuff, and you're not able to zero in on what that consumer is coming to your page or your brand for.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like when Zivame started out, you knew that you went to Zivame to buy lingerie.
Yes.
Then Zivame subsequently they did sleepwear also. Then they said we do petticoats also. Then I don't know if Zivame went into jewelry also. They went into other things. But the primary reason why I still go to Zivame or think about Zivame is if I have to sit at my desk and buy a bra, or if I have to sit at my desk and buy a lipstick, then I think of Nykaa. But even within that, let's say even within lingerie or within color cosmetics, you can't be equally creating content or advertising for each one of the products.
Yes. But when you are talking about a brand who puts up a thematic film on YouTube, then and the brand has to know beforehand why are they investing in making that thematic film. Like in the old days, you put it up on TV, it gave you that reach. You are hoping for it to lead to some conversion or something where the person clicks on something or ends up buying something or fills up a form, leaves his email address or his mobile number, some lead generation, because that's what digital can do for you. So therefore, if you're just uploading a nice film on YouTube, then all it's going to get is likes and views.
But what's wrong with that? If I not use YouTube in early stages, I don't have so much money. Let's say excluding all of the retainers that I pay and excluding the production monies, etc. Let's say the amount of money that I have to put on media only, on the YouTube channel only, let's say is 20 lakhs. I've already made my film. I've paid the retainer and whatever other creative fees to my various agencies. Now I have left 20 lakhs, which I will put per month on YouTube. Okay.
I'm using that 20 lakhs to promote that video on YouTube.
Correct. I made a 20-second film, and that 20-second film is about a great moisturizer. Okay, I've come up with this beautiful moisturizing cream. I've made a 20-second film about this moisturizing cream. I put it up on YouTube. And my objective is that I must build reach with this film on YouTube, because I need to tell people, dear people, I've launched this new beautiful moisturizing cream. Please remember me. Please buy me. And you can buy me on Amazon, you can buy me on Nykaa, you can buy me on Flipkart.
Yeah.
So tell me, for something like this, is this not a good enough objective to have that I want to build reach with YouTube?
Yeah, you could, but then that means you have those budgets to build reach and only get views.
Yeah. No, so is that a bad thing? Okay, let's rewind a little bit. Let's say if I have 20 lakhs total to spend on any kind of digital media, and I'm launching a new skincare brand. What would you recommend?
You're launching a new brand, you want sales. You need numbers, you need conversion. You need people to buy your product, and also putting out content that, hey, check out, I use this cream and this cream transformed my face. You need that user-generated content as well. All these things you'd rather spend on than putting out a normal video on YouTube, because the normal video on YouTube is just going to get you views or likes or comments. Nice ad. I like this. I might try out this product, but you never know unless YouTube is running an ad campaign as well. Within that ad, like there's a banner to click on to buy that thing, and you go straight and buy it. Then YouTube is giving you those metrics that so many people, while watching this ad, ended up going to your microsite and you got that conversion. But otherwise, it's just views. But if a startup brand or an upcoming brand wants numbers, they want conversion, then they got to take all their video assets and you create video assets which will run on social and digital, which will be from a conversion perspective.
Okay, so let's talk a little about this only. I am, in fact, working on a premium skincare brand. Let's say we start out with very small monies. Let's say my budget is even smaller, not even 20 lakhs. I have only 10 lakhs to start with to put on media. Okay, I come to you and I say, dear Karan, I've launched this beautiful cream and it's a premium moisturizing cream. I'm expecting people to pay 700 rupees per jar for this cream. and I have own of 10 lakh rupees. I've launched it only 20 days back. Now, tell me, what can you do for me? What would you recommend, both in terms of the creative as well as in terms of media? Talk to me about both from a digital standpoint.
So first, just like I said, you do the basic breakdown of the content architecture to define both the elevator pitch, the persona, all of that. Once all of that is in place, and say we've zeroed in on the fact that this audience is, say, just hypothetically, it's on Instagram, for example. Instagram is my lead platform, and I'm going to get maximum leads, engagement, purchase, all of that, clicks. People are going to my website to buy. All of that is going to come to Instagram. I'm going to be putting majority of media money in Instagram. Then what am I going to use in Instagram to deliver? Am I going to use posts? What is therefore my content strategy? How often am I posting? And what all am I posting about? And therefore, what all is my content solving? Am I putting out a content that is solving someone's problem? Am I putting out a content which is educating someone on moisturizing? Or I'm putting out content which is informing someone how this moisturizer is better than any other moisturizer that you have done? Or I'm putting out a content which is purely awareness based, which is grabbing someone's attention where someone is feeling moisturized like they've never felt before. Or I'm putting out influencer content where influencers are saying, oh my God, I discovered this cream and now it is doing. So you can end up doing 8 or 9 different things which are solving 8 or 9 different pain points.
Perfect. You've been a digital guy for so long. In your digital world, which are the brands you think that are doing a great job? It can be platform specific. You can say on this platform, I think this brand is doing a great job on this one.
I think everybody loves Zomato and Swiggy, and we see their content.
Yeah.
In fact, I was doing content for one of my brands, which is an electric motorcycle brand, and we did a piece for them for April Fool's Day. And some user actually commented saying, "Ye to Zomato level post hai." It was like their KPI was met. Like, there's a lot to learn also from Zomato as well as Swiggy, which is their content is not telling you go shop on Zomato today, go order on Zomato today. They are just saying what is the core. The core is love for food. And then they create the content around love for food. They capture those feelings. Everything that I was saying, pain points of people, feelings of people, shock and awe, all these things that grab attention is what they do so beautifully in their content. Another brand that I really, really love that gets, I feel, content really right, and it's quite shocking is, and they do it both on Twitter as well as Instagram, is Mumbai Police. Their content is like really widely shared and they're really having fun. Like they're cracking jokes on things people would get arrested for. Last week, they made a post which is the human body has 208 joints, but that's why you don't need to have even one. Otherwise, we'll come looking for you. Like smoke a joint.
Oh gosh.
So people are enjoying it because people vibe it and people get to it. A classic, like a classic traditional advertising, if you had to write headlines for a brand, 4 headlines which had puns in them, your boss would probably sack you the next day. But in digital and social media, you write 4 puns. The consumers are loving you because they are writing 5 more puns in the comments.
Right.
The content becomes that much more relatable. So I think Zomato and Swiggy do a great job on that. Another brand that I like that I've seen in the last few years is Whole Truth Foods. The way they've crafted their content, the way they craft their storytelling, as well as even the way they stuff like replying to consumers. I saw one post where there was a woman who they had a post on dark chocolate, and some woman has commented saying, "Are you going to launch 80% dark chocolate?" So they replied to her saying, like, "Oh my God, we did not know that you are surrendered to the dark side. So now we have 70%, so you can enjoy that." So even in the consumer reply, it's not like a normal, any other brand, like, okay, we'll get back to you. Brand, all of that is clearly shown in everything that they do.
So easier with the new age brands, with the D2C brands, which are founder led, because there are no hazard departments. I mean, where you go through a blah, 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 blah. It's sanitized with 10 different people, and then there is a set template, and then what is populated out is such junk.
A lot of these brands, I think that when you think of social media, especially, you cannot be procrastinating so much on a social post. Like I've worked in many agencies, and the single social post goes through 10 rounds of changes. Spending 3 days breaking down on what that post is going to be, then that post goes live, and the consumer comment is the same. I like this. Nice. It's all no use, right? So I think that's something that brands should definitely learn about is do not like hug on to social media as if it's such a big thing. Oh, like if your social media post had a typo, it might work for you.
Yeah, typos all right. That's understandable. Yeah. But like you said, guys, the blue color use kiya, or don't overthink the social. And I've seen this particularly with new brands. And since this discussion is especially about how do you build towards becoming a strong brand at early stages, there's also this risk of, for example, some of the brands that I'm working with, there's this obsession, by the way, it's a big thing to brag about, to very quickly say, oh, I've got a performance marketing agency, I've got a social media agency, I've got a brand marketing agency, I've got a SEO agency, I've got a design. So all my agencies are set. Like, I'm big, man. I have so many agencies working with me, okay? And now all of these agencies have super smart men and women on the other side who are all doing their respective stuff for the brand. And what happens in the process is everybody seems to be doing a lot of smart stuff, but it's not all coming together as a brand. It's not just about having a brand book. It's also about starting from the strategy to how do you make sure that everything adds up together to feeling like a well-knit, consistent brand. And where in the quest for ultra wit and humor, for example, with Zomato, there is no confusion about what the hell are these guys about. You knew it's food, you know that. I mean, they weren't doing emotion-led or feelings-led. None of their posts actually. How many of their posts were devoid of food altogether? That was the hero. Everything that they did was around that. So that is another thing that I feel in the quest for creativity, and particularly on social media, this bit about making the product the hero, missing the point that the consumer may not know what you sell.
Yeah.
Make sure the consumer knows what you sell.
I think at a early stage, definitely they should, like I said, and I wanted to touch upon this thing of the budget. A lot of brands have, just like you said, all of that is done. Now I have 20 lakhs for media. In general, a lot of brands have digital media budget, but they do not have a digital production budget or a digital content creation, scripting, ideation budget. When you were in Kurkure and I was at Jiram Tea, there's a big brand. Kurkure is paying Pepsi a annual retainer, which is a big sum. And therefore, in that, there is ideation is you can get 20 scripts a month if you want. But for a startup brand, they cannot afford a Jiram Tea. And therefore, they cannot be who are they going to call, who's going to write the scripts for them. And therefore, they need to set aside what is their monthly budget for kind of scripts they want based on the platforms that they're going to use. Therefore, you've locked a certain budget from your this marketing budget on how much you're going to spend on, say, ideation. Therefore, then from your ideation, how much you're going to spend on production. Because production is important. What is your content on Instagram going to look like? What is your reel going to look like? What is your post going to look like? Everything, what does it look like?
Let me be a client and tell you, I mean, the digital film is not supposed to be expensive. You can't compare production monies of TV and digital.
It's all digital now. So amazing stuff that works on digital looks aesthetically wow and can be achieved even with a mobile. So while you, depending again on the brand and the kind of budgets they have, but a startup brand can definitely shoot with a mobile phone and still achieve the same or close to the similar quality.
No, so what you are saying is just because it's a digital film, don't compromise on how the film looks. Make sure that your film looks great. Even if it is shot on a mobile phone, it can be intelligently shot on a mobile phone. It can be intelligently edited. And with small amount of money, you can make a digital film also that looks great. But it is natural to expect that the production monies of a digital film will be a very, very, very small proportion of what TV production monies will be.
Again, I would say it is script dependent and idea dependent. So if a brand does not have big budgets, see they have only, like you said, 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs in total. Then somebody has to come up with a script, keeping in mind that every second line is mere ko amazing idea chahiye, budget ka fikar mat kar. But after you write an amazing idea, it's like, I have only 2 lakhs. Then why did I even ideate that script for you?
Yeah.
So it's always good to be honest. If a brand is honest and he knows I have only 10 lakhs, then from that 10 lakhs, I have 2 lakhs parked for scripting. I have only 5 lakhs which will go for shooting. And then I have only 3 or 4 lakhs for media, for example. That breakup the client has to do at their end, but they have to do that breakup.
So if I had 10 lakhs, I would say, look, I have 2 lakhs already on for all production. I need to put 8 lakhs on media.
No, but that's the thing, which is also this divide, which is a lot of brands in the early stages, which were moving from TV to digital. The beauty with digital is that because you are not putting the same asset everywhere, you are creating multiple different assets. It cannot be 80-20. So therefore, you have to then do production, keeping in mind those number of assets, and therefore what the production cost is going to come to. Also, the way content is structured for digital is content is structured very differently. So you should keep other things in mind, like shooting vertical video, 9:16 in mind versus 16:9 in mind. When you shoot for vertical, keeping vertical in mind, that video can be used in a lot more places than a 16:9. Every social media platform has stories. Almost every social media platform now is having a version of reels as well. So then even the scripting, the ideation, that ideation is being done in vertical. And therefore, when you're shooting these films, also keeping in mind how I will then extract content which will go, say, for example, as Facebook posts, or as Instagram posts, or as stories, or as web banners on digital. So if it's a brand which wants you to download something, maybe there's a guy standing with a phone and saying, tuck, 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 click on this. This is how you download it. Download now. So therefore, from one single shoot, you're also pulling out not just one film, but 50 assets. In the case of a brand new brand, as in a brand that is just starting out, they need to figure out these things to assist that agency to think within that so that XYZ can be achieved better.
I've also seen that a lot of agencies or a lot of freelancers traditionally who don't inherently think digital are not able to plan for how a particular creative can be conceived in a way such that you can extract those 50 assets out of it.
That's why when you differ, when brand has defined this persona and discovered that this persona is largely on this platform and therefore what they're doing on this platform, therefore then you're crafting your storytelling literally based on that insight. So like say for example, if the brand finds out that my consumer is only into memes, वो पूरा दिन memes ही देखता है. The first 3 seconds is where the magic happens. You have to grab the user's attention within the first 3 seconds, because after the 10th second, his attention span starts dropping. The brand has to do 3 things. 3 things they have to achieve in this. What is that consumer feeling and how can you visualize that feeling in a video form, or what the consumer is doing? A shock expression, does he have a scared expression? Something which relates with someone that is watching it. So you make a human connection. The second thing is you make a very bold statement. And by this bold statement is, like I said, is from your elevator pitch. What is this main message that you want to deliver? Like you said, moisturizing creams. The headline could be, I was fed up with all the moisturizing creams I ever had until I found this one.
Okay.
And someone may be going through that as well. So they end up watching it more. And then the most important thing that you need to crack in the first 5 seconds is shock value. How am I grabbing the attention for that person to watch a little more so that they can catch my message? So these 3 things a brand should keep in mind. What is the human connection? What is this bold statement that I'm making? And in this bold statement, if you watch a lot of the reels, a lot of the stuff, the same thing that the person is saying also comes up as a caption. Not even saying anything. They're just dancing to music because reels is about like using the next track. But the message is a nice caption. And then that sticks in somebody's head. And 3 is shock. You need to have that shock value going.
Very nice. But would these 3 rules apply across all kinds of categories, across all kinds of products? What if I were a really serious product? And Karan, you and I have both worked on this category. If I were a surgery brand and let's say the audience is all tier 2 audience and they are all on Josh or on Moj, and we have to sell them, say, a varicose vein surgery, then would this still apply?
I mean, of course, it would apply because you are grabbing that consumer's attention in an interesting way. You're leading with a human emotion because, like you said,
I can't make a mockery of the subject because this person.
But that's like I said, you have to grab the person's attention and you have to. So in this case, your storytelling medium would change. You would do less of shock and awe, and you'd bring out that shock and awe with something which is informative or educative. That is the value that brand is adding. You are shocking someone with an information. Like so many women have varicose vein and it can be solved in just a day. What? And then you have another, like you have to imagine you have 2 people there and one person is saying this to another person and it's like, really? I didn't know this. Did you know this? Now the consumer watching this is already got hooked in. See, the very important thing for irrespective of what brand it is, you have to clearly define what are the hooks. Grabbing and creating these hooks is what makes your content that much more impactful and that much more engaging.
Yeah, very nice. So the other thing I want to tell you is, For example, there was this financial management wealth investment platform that I was working on. So I'm a serious brand. I must have my investors trust me with their money, that I will take the best decisions for you in terms of where I invest your money. At the same time, we also want to appeal to the young, happening millennials. Okay. And the short form, by the way, for all millennial advertising seems to be song and dance. The point I'm making is that there is this balance between creating for what inherently works for the platform versus what the brand is about, what the brand's DNA is. So if the brand needs to educate, needs to win the consumer's trust, and is a very high involvement product, while the platform is seemingly the go-to for entertainment, how does one balance it?
It's very easy, just because just what we defined earlier, which was what platforms are they on. Now your high net worth individuals, they're checking out other blogs, or they're checking out other websites, which news websites, Financial Times and all those. Is going to lure them versus what is going to lure that 21-year-old is a different story.
Right. And so when I'm talking to the CEO who has shitloads of money and is reading the Economic Times every day, that creative for Economic Times is going to be very different from the creative that I do for the 30-year-old who has just decided I'm going to start SIPs, and this 30-year-old is hanging out on Instagram. Now over here, so the brand has to be talking to this 30-year-old. The brand is also talking to the CEO on Economic Times. And at the same time, the brand can't become a fractured identity, because I can't become someone I'm not.
See, in the old world, when you are making a television commercial, the same brand would make one television commercial and assume that both are going to watch the same television commercial and come to me. That's not going to happen, because both are not going to be pulling out the same information from it.
Yeah.
You want different information given to the 21-year-old and different information given to the high net individual.
While retaining the brand's DNA, you said, which means that the brand's DNA, first of all, has to be clearly defined in the minds of the brand custodian. What am I should be clear for the person who's actually giving the brief to the agency. Then the agency has to understand that and be able to maintain that brand's DNA. Great. I think this was a fantastic discussion. Is there anything else you think we should be talking about?
This quote from Seth Godin says that marketing is no longer about talking about the stuff that you make. If all your advertising efforts, all your marketing efforts, especially for a startup brand, is all about check out my product, isme ye hai, isme ye hai, then you're not going to grow up, become that iconic brand. You really want to become that iconic brand, then you got to make your advertising or your marketing efforts about telling stories. How interestingly can I make this story? How engaging can I make this story? How can I even make the consumer a part of my storytelling? Just like user-generated content. Somebody is now, you have sent a new moisturizing cream. How many users are ending up buying my cream, and without me having a contest, she is happily sharing my product in her stories. How am I empowering the consumer to do that? And must do that when they know that the brand is relaxed brand that they can engage with. So therefore, you need to tell stories and tell interesting stories. The more interesting stories, which are more insightful with what's happening to the consumer. What is the consumer feeling?
Which means you must understand your consumer.
What are they doing on platforms? What's exciting them on platforms? And therefore, very important thing is that brands should have, especially startup brands or upcoming brands, should have a good checklist on content creation. They should try and shoot vertical, like I said. Don't stand. If you're like a lot of startup brands, they don't even need a production house. They just get a selfie stand, attach the camera, and then stand in front of it and tell your story. Also, in a lot of cases, like I said, design content for mute storytelling.
Oh, wow, fantastic.
While you're showcasing your product, showing something, you don't want people losing attention. So as much as you can, you should tell the story in mute and just have nice captions which highlight what happens. Very simple reel, which is very effective, is just there are these people dancing and they'll just point their finger and say, these are the 5 things you should not do. These are the 5 things that you should do. It's very easy to watch. It's very easy to take the information out of it as well as remember.
I really like what you said about making sure that the content works on mute, because very often I've seen, even for digital, a lot of the films that are presented, a lot of the digital thinking is very, very heavily dialogue based. And if you're not listening to that dialogue with 100% attention, like literally processing it as though I have to write an exam after this to reproduce what I heard, I think that irrespective, whether it's TV or digital, irrespective, now the audiences have moved on because there's just so much clutter. I've become a huge believer in visual storytelling. If I were to switch it on mute, irrespective, whether it's TV or digital, I must be able to immediately get, acha, ye bola, ye proposition hai, ye product hai.
The important point for startup brands is to know that on digital, there is a lot you can do other than just making a video. A lot of brands like digital video banate hain, like just put up this video on YouTube. That's what they end up doing, where they put majority of their budgets in making this master video, which goes on YouTube, and then you don't have any budgets left for any of your other platforms using Shutterstock, for social media content and all of that. You have not thought it through. And also, therefore, your monies are getting divided. You can actually end up investing your monies in things which are a lot more effective than making a video. You may not even make a video because there's so much more. Now with platforms like Instagram or TikTok or even Merge, you can make filters. People engage, users use your filter, engage with your filter, that much higher engagement. People make memes, people do all kinds of influencer tie-up, may not make a film. I want to find these 10 micro influencers, each of them will make a video for me.